everyone, and welcome to another episode of Friends, Facts, and Fiction. As always, this podcast is made possible by our local convenience stores, the misappropriation of history, and you. And now to your hosts, Justin Hammonds, Grant Bramlett, and Drew Shellnut.
What's up? What's happening, world? This is a podcast called Friends, Facts, and Fiction, episode 24, season 3, all about psychology. And today we're going to continue the music on the brain, psychology of music, and how it makes us feel and such. I'm Justin Hammonds. I'm looking at my boy, Drew Shellnut.
Yes, it's episode 25, by the way.
25. I said 24, didn't I? And we just discussed this.
24.2.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And my boy, Grant Bramlett.
Hello.
And we have another awesome guest in here today. My boy Nick Stone's in the building.
How's it going, mate?
Yeah, he's a badass guitar player of a dope-ass band called South for the Winter.
No, take out the...
Huh?
No, South for Winter.
South for Winter.
Yeah.
Hey.
South for Winter.
It's like Facebook, you know?
Yeah.
The Facebook?
Yeah.
No, Facebook.
No, just Facebook.
Oh, hell yeah. He's here to help us get through this episode, give some nice insights on how he feels about music and how it's touched him and all that good stuff. Speaking of, I guess you got the song of the day today, yeah?
I decided to shamelessly promote some new music off our debut album, Lux Umbra. Lux stands for light and Umbra stands for shadow in Latin. Yeah. So we tried to do a sense of duality. A lot of the album is kind of your happy folk and then the other half is your murder ballad. So this is a bit of a snip of the first female serial killer in America from South Carolina.
Nice.
Called Black Widow. Prog folk or something?
Yeah, super dope.
I don't know, but that's sexy.
That shit is good. And the album art for that record is
album art by
super
Derek
dope.
Hobbs.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
super
Yeah,
dope.
that's
it's
great.
Amazing, man.
He crushed it. He's done a lot of freelance work with 615 and all that
word.
as well.
Yeah.
Really talented artist.
Cool. So is that you singing some of the background vocals there?
Yeah. My wife is doing the lead vocal. I'm taking the male vocal there, and I tried the female vocal. It didn't work.
Didn't
very
work
well.
out for you?
No.
Interesting.
And then doing some acoustic guitar. It's a Resonator hybrid, which is kind of a fun recording process. Like we did like a stereo stack setup for a Resonator because it has a single coil pickup, and then also acoustically tracked it as well to get a hybrid sound. And then I came on Tally, I think it was, doing the electric guitar at the end there. So that was kind of fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds really good.
Cheers, guys.
It's dope as fuck, man.
I was kind of picking up on some of what you were talking about before we hit record in the sort of almost operatic approach. You know what I mean?
To me, it feels like if you put Muse on folk instruments.
Yeah.
I can see that.
I can definitely see that, bro.
That's pretty cool.
That was a great comparison.
I love Matt Bellamy. I love his style.
Me too.
Yeah.
They sound so large.
Massive.
So large.
Such a huge three-piece, those guys.
Yeah, it's nuts, man.
Pedals.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, he does have that scratch pad on the guitar, which is kind of ridiculous to be like scratching while
While you playing,
it's Tom Morello kind of arena when you start getting into that stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But the crazy thought is, like when you go to a festival and you're just like, pre-COVID, thousands of people around you, sweaty as hell,
Yeah,
and just
for sure.
dancing, and you're just like, why are we all here? That's the thought. Like what? And it's kind of the fun thought is how a certain genre attracts a certain kind of personality as well.
Oh yeah, of course, definitely.
That's the psychology of music.
Yeah, that's right. We're about to slide up in them hot facts. That's a great intro right there, bro. He's a natural, this guy. He's coming from my job over here. Well,
Segue.
Yeah, there you go. So everybody's good. Everybody had a good week and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
It was fine.
Sports
I'm
balls kicks
exhausted.
back in.
Yeah.
So,
Roll Tide. Okay.
roll tide, you know.
Yeah. You're
Last
exhausted.
night was tough.
Oh yeah, last night at the bar, Inglewood Lounge, Sunday Jam, come through 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. Anyway, yeah,
Sure,
last
it is
night,
1 a.m. Come on, like 3 a.m.
Yeah, well, it depends on the money I'm making. And last night, I was completely tired of making money. To be honest,
Yeah.
I was like, bro, it's over. Like, can we stop?
We made enough money by like 11. You know, at that moment, we're like, okay, everybody just leave.
Man, this cat picked up somebody's guitar without asking, and it was a whole situation.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, messed up his settings and stuff. Yeah, it was wild for the ending of it.
Yeah, that's not
But
good.
it was good vibes the whole night until Jackass wanted to just grab somebody's guitar. You know, you can just go grab somebody's telly and fucking.
No, that's like walking up to a motorcycle sitting in a parking lot and like,
look
like
at this
sitting
thing,
on top
man.
of it. I was
Yeah,
playing a show in Birmingham, Courtyard 280. If y'all remember that place.
Courtyard. Holy shit.
I was playing there, and we were playing with this little, redneck cover band. We walk outside. We did 3 sets of an hour apiece. In between the second and third set, we were all litty to titty. Walked outside to get some fresh air, and there was this, like, I guess 21, 22-year-old kid sitting on this motorcycle just acting like he's revving it. And this dude came out looking like Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top with a just straight black vest, no anything else other than black leggings, black vest, like all leather. And he came out and he's, look, boy, you're sitting on you're sitting on my motor or my horse. That's what he said. You're sitting on my horse.
My pony.
And I was like, oh, Lord have mercy. We were like, dude, get off.
Yeah.
And he was like, you bet, get off and don't show your ass back around here. We were like, oopsie.
Yeah, there's other places to drink tonight, my guy. Figure out your options.
Not on Billy Gibbons' horse.
Yeah, hell no. That's fucking wild. Yeah, don't focus on other people's shit.
Yeah,
man.
you know.
Like, come on.
It's pretty common
I
courtesy.
do recall like lending an acoustic guitar I recently bought to a guy I didn't know. He just was like, "Hey, can I play it?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Trying to be nice and all.
Yeah.
And then he just starts slapping the shit out of it, and like I'd been doing some percussive stuff on it, and I'm like, "Yeah, it's got percussive pickups," but it wasn't plugged in. So he's just like, and I'm like, "This is a very expensive instrument." Like internally, I was like stressing out, like massive. And I'm like, I'm never again.
Yeah,
Never, one and done. Never again.
That's what happened last night. This dude
It's not
just
a
started
damn
wailing.
hand drum.
Started wailing
Yeah, I
on this
get it.
electric, and it's like, bro, you're doing way too much. Like he's pulling in them stretching strings and all that. It's like, bro, like you're doing a lot with somebody else's guitar. Chill out.
Was it when he like lit it on fire that you're like, that's too much?
Yeah, that was the turning point.
Now we probably would have seen an actual murder happen if he did that. Because dude basically just almost picked him up and took him outside, damn near. Like, it was real.
No, you're like in a city like this one, you honestly never know. You could be picking up a $10,000 guitar.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
quite
saying.
easily.
And there's heavy hitters that come through the lounge to play. Like there's some cats that
just
are
wanna have a
known,
jam.
and
Yeah.
just go up and touch their shit. Like Anyway,
Yeah.
but it was a fun night, crazy week. Well, yeah. I hope you all are having a good day at work, or leaving work, or at your house showering,
Staying safe,
Maybe-
staying out of,
maybe cutting the grass.
any floods or
There you go with that again.
fires burning your state down.
Just be safe out there. You know what I'm saying? But we're here, and we're gonna get to these hot facts. Psychology of music.
Yeah, so we kind of went
Episode
through
2.
the overview of everything last week and got to talk to our good buddy Kevin. Highly recommend listening to that episode if you haven't yet, because I'm gonna basically just jump straight in. But I figured today we could sort of start off with a little bit of the basics, the overview of what makes music music. You know what I mean? Then we can kind of dive into some fun shit. So when we're listening to music, we're actually perceiving multiple attributes or dimensions. And here's a brief summary. A discrete musical sound is actually called a tone. The word note is also used, but scientists reserve that word to refer to something that is notated on a page or a score of music. The two terms tone and note refer to the same entity in the abstract, where the word tone refers to what you hear, the word note refers to what you see written on a musical score. Pitch is a purely psychological construct related to the actual frequency of a particular tone and its relative position in the musical scale. It provides the answer to the question, what note is that? Rhythm refers to the duration of a series of notes and to the way that they group together into units. Tempo refers to the overall speed or pace of the piece. Contour describes the overall shape of a melody, taking into account the pattern of up and down, whether a note goes up or down, not the amount in which it goes up or down. Timbre is that which distinguishes one instrument from another, say a trumpet from a piano. When both are playing the same written note, it's a kind of tonal color that is produced in part by the overtones of the instrument's vibrations. Loudness is another purely psychological construct that relates non-linearly and in poorly understood ways to the physical amplitude of a tone. I'm going to get into that later. It's really pretty complicated, and it's kind of been fucking with my brain since I've kind of been able to wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
I'm like hearing sounds all around me, and I'll notice like when something louder overtakes something else, and it seems less loud.
Yeah.
It's nuts. The whole thing is fucking crazy.
Yeah, that whole little bullet there, I was like, huh.
Yeah.
All right.
Spatial location is where the sound is coming from. Reverberation refers to the perception of how distant the source is from us in combination with how large a room or hall the music is in, often referred to as an echo by laypeople. It is a quality that distinguishes the spaciousness of singing in a large concert hall from the sound of singing in your shower. It has an underappreciated role in communicating emotion and creating an overall pleasing sound. These attributes are separable. Each can be varied without altering the others, allowing the scientific study of one at a time, which is why we can think of them as dimensions. The difference between music and a random or disordered set of sounds has to do with the way these fundamental attributes all combine and the relations that form between them. When these basic elements combine and form relationships with one another in a meaningful way, they give rise to a higher order concepts such as meter, key, melody, and harmony. And then I'll hit those real quick. Meters created by our brains by extracting information from rhythm and loudness cues, and refers to the way in which tones are grouped with one another across time. Key has to do with the hierarchy of importance that exists between tones in a musical piece. Melody is the main theme of a musical piece, the part you sing along with. Harmony has to do with the relationships between the pitches of different tones and with tonal contexts that these pitches set up that ultimately lead to expectations for what will come next in a musical piece.
Yeah. We talked about that last week.
Yep.
Some of these elements, like pitch and loudness, are purely psychological. It's entirely in our heads, not in the world around us. It's the end product of a chain of mental events that gives rise to an entirely subjective internal representation. We can measure them, sure, but it takes our brain or mind to wrap them to that internal thing, like pitch. Newton pointed out that light is colorless. Light waves are characterized by different frequencies of oscillation. When they hit our retina, there's a chain of neurochemical events leading to our brains giving us the mental image of a color. Likewise, sound waves enter the ear, past the eardrum, then through the basilar membrane, where certain hair cells fire depending on the frequency of the sounds, acting like a motion sensor, sending an electrical signal up the auditory cortex. There, the brain contains a map of different pitches. Literally, parts of your brain light up based on the notes being played.
It's awesome.
Although music is based on pitch relations rather than absolute pitch values, it is paradoxically these absolute pitch values that the brain is paying attention to during the processing. And on top of that, we still haven't found the neurological basis for pitch relations, which is how we really listen to music.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's unexplained phenomenon.
Yeah. It's
natural human
fucking
shit.
insane. It really is. Just so goddamn cool.
The unknown is so amazing.
Well, it's kind of like like color in that same sense that they talk about a lot.
Right.
I mean, it's like synesthesia is a fascinating concept. I mean, if you saw music in color,
Yeah.
you know, what colors are pleasing to you? And that's the same concept as what frequencies or sounds are pleasing to you.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of research that shows that infants experience synesthesia until your brain can like effectively map everything and like put it into different categories.
And
essentially,
the theory on classical music, you know, increasing people's
it's
brain capacity at a younger age.
kind of bullshit.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it-
I mean, but in the same sense, notes can open up new neurological pathways. So as a child,
Right.
perhaps you're seeing it differently. There's a theory on like the way that children visually see animals, they can see the differences. And if there was, say, take possums, for example, say like a half a dozen possums around you, they could distinguish which one is which one based on the features.
Yeah.
So maybe they're hearing music differently than we are. I mean, maybe they're
I
hearing
could
more
imagine.
a frequency span like dogs are.
Yeah.
I don't know.
yeah.
I mean,
Maybe
my ears are
babies are
completely
dogs.
damaged by this time in my life. So I'm sure when I was younger, it was a lot better.
Oh, man. I just had like an ear test done recently to get some done. It was like, I was surprised it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Surprise.
Because I'm
good.
legitimately afraid of it.
Oh,
Especially
yeah, no,
since I saw
definitely
that,
get it done. Get a test
Yeah,
done for sure.
I probably will. But
Someone described it once as like candles in your ears. Like it just, you can still see as they go out, but you know, eventually it's going to get pretty dim in there. So
Yeah, for sure.
you want to get them back.
Actually, I'm going to
Especially
try.
hitting
I'm going to
drums.
try to put a link in our. I will put a link in this episode too. There is a YouTube video that I saw probably 10 years ago, which is definitely obviously still there, but it is the frequencies that you lose throughout your age,
Right.
And you literally just hit play, and if it'll say, you know, you're to the age of 5 to 12, you can hear this, and you'll
Right.
beep, and you'll hear it. And then it got to my age, and I was like, "You're not going to hear this," and I was like, "Pfft.
Oh,
Are
shit.
you? Is it playing?" And then like,
Is this buffering
Or,
right
or
now?
the freakiest part was like, we got to his dad. Like my buddy's dad was sitting watching this with us, or listening to this with us, and it shows the little sound wave on the screen,
This is going
kind of a dope.
Yeah.
And he's like, I haven't heard anything for like 10 minutes. And I'm like,
Which makes you think about like Beethoven. How the hell did he write things?
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
it's
like
crazy.
frequency, vibration.
Yeah, just
Like,
vibration. Yeah, I guess.
completely.
Well, at that
Through
point, it was really more
vibration.
about the notes on the page for him. Like
True.
he
Yeah,
just
yeah,
knew
true.
what it was
Use a
supposed to
theory.
look
I will
like.
say that when I was playing in that death metal band that I played with in high school, that played music way too fucking loud every time we ever played.
all you hit was bass.
I had to put the bass into my. I had to put the top arm of the bass into my chest,
So you could
so I
feel
could
it.
feel the notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like
Because I
how
couldn't
you
hear it.
practice in like a tiny apartment,
Yeah,
and put it
yeah.
against the wall.
You're
You
like,
know,
exactly.
and surely
Let it
if you
reverb.
haven't done it
No,
before,
but-
try it.
Yeah, if you haven't done it before, you're not there yet.
You are not struggling enough.
Beginner stages.
Keep going, baby.
Yeah, you get there. You get there.
That's awesome, though.
All right, so something that's deeply fundamental to music is the octave, which is double or half the frequency. The note sounds so similar to us, we just simply call them the same. That's why our scale repeats, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then back to A. And this is, the Western scale.
Yeah.
But every culture that we know of has an octave, even though many other aspects of the music are drastically different. Monkeys and cats also show octave equivalency.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Right?
Yeah,
crazy.
monkeys can't really hold a beat very well. Like they've done a lot of tests
Like
on
rhythm.
it, and then like
Got
they
no
can,
rhythm.
they understand the concept of like, okay, you hit this drum, I'll hit this drum.
Do they get
But you
melody?
do a little bit, but octaves they definitely resonate
Yeah.
with. And then cats, who are supposed to be lower on the totem.
Cats
pole,
aren't
if
supposed
you
to be
will.
able to hear any of us. We have deep enough voices. Cats are not.
They selectively blocked us out.
Yeah, they're like, nope, not those guys.
I think that's more so the
Yeah.
case, yeah.
But seriously, on a like a physical spectrum, they're not supposed to be able to, with their hearing through octaves, be able to hear like someone as low as my voice.
That's crazy.
But they can
Yeah.
because they've adapted to
Yeah.
humans. So.
Wow.
It's also like dogs, for example, don't know necessarily what you're saying, but the tone
Yeah.
can tell.
Oh,
Makes
yeah.
a
yeah,
huge
Drop
difference.
lower.
Yeah, because you're a
Like,
stupid
oh,
little boy. And they're like,
Durga.
That's awesome.
They know when they're in trouble. That's for sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but birds are actually really, really good at melody. Obviously, bird song. You know what I mean? That's like their part of their mating ritual and everything. And
of course.
Here's a fucking crazy one. In an experiment, they placed electrodes in the inferior colliculus of a barn owl, which is part of the auditory system. Mm-hmm. Then the scientists played the owls a version of Strauss's Blue Danube Waltz, but made up of tones which the fundamental frequency has been removed. So he's testing multiple things here. Our brains are so adept at like putting parts of a puzzle into a full picture immediately that you can even remove the fundamental frequency, and your brain will take all the other overtone of the overtone series and then make that note.
So it's the glue for reality.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
That's
pretty awesome.
And apparently fucking owls can do this too. So the scientist Peter hypothesized that if the missing fundamental is restored at early levels of auditory processing, neurons in the owl's inferior colliculus would fire at the same rate of the missing fundamental. Wow. And this is exactly what they found. And because the electrodes put a small electrical signal with each firing, and because the firing rate is the same as the frequency of firing, Peter sent the output of these electrodes into a small amplifier and played back the sound of the owl's neurons through a loudspeaker.
What?
And what he heard was Blue Danube Waltz.
That's
sang clearly from the loudspeakers.
That's fucking wild, bro. I just got goosebumps. I just got goosebumps.
I want to hear that recording.
I know, right?
I'm not doing acid anymore.
Yeah, that's some trippy shit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we were hearing the firing rates of the neurons, and they were identical to the frequency of the missing fundamental.
That's cool.
Wow, or
so
I'm doing
cool.
acid a little more. I can't remember which I should do.
And if anybody listening doesn't know, instruments resonate at multiple frequencies when playing one note. So the fundamental tone plus a whole bunch of overtones. We just put them together immediately in our brains. But the difference in overtones is how we recognize each instrument, right? It's their fingerprint, you could think of it. Like clarinets, for example, they have odd overtones, 3, 5, 7, etc., times the fundamental. And the experiment I just went over, they started by removing the fundamental, and our brains put it back for us. And with fucking owls.
That's fucking wild, bro.
Jeez, imagine what pigs can hear if owls can hear.
I always
that.
wonder on a cultural level if the fundamentals are different between like Eastern and Western. Mm-hmm. You know? Because it's like when you hear even just a scale that we consider a scale is typically based upon like a pentatonic or a minor scale. And,
Right.
and then you go over to Southeast Asia and you're like, everything sounds out of tune.
Yeah, because
sounds-
it's the in-between notes.
Yeah.
A lot of in
But
between.
like to them, they listen to our music, and I remember being in like South America, and like this kid that was in the car with us, he was like, "Nah," puts on his music, and it's just like boom, ja-dum, ja-dum, ja-dum,
Yeah.
you know. But like he couldn't handle folk music to save himself. He's like,
Sure.
"This is painful." No.
Well, I think a really good way to kind of like imagine how inherently different the musical constructs are between different cultures is going to be with like percussive melodic instruments, right? Because that's the only note you can play. Like a woodwind instrument or a stringed instrument and everything like that, you can bend. You know, you can slide into notes and everything like that. So you're hitting a whole bunch of different things.
Whereas
in between.
percussion sits on a certain scale.
Exactly. Like so, think about like a trombone versus a piano. The piano you can only
Have you heard of
hit
the
that
gamelan
one right
before?
note. Yeah, those things are cool.
That's
as
one of
fuck.
the most messed up percussion instruments because, like, it's in Indonesia. They like recreated their national instrument like 80 years ago, and they created the gamelan. And the gamelan is in a different key for every hill tribe. So it's not that you can just be like, "Hey, can I join?" It's like, "Nah, you got to get the right key."
Yeah.
Like,
Wrong tribe, guy. Keep moving.
Yeah,
That's
it's
fucking
like,
wild.
hey guys, you mind if I sit in? Where are you from? No, sorry.
no.
Yeah,
Sorry, guy.
yeah, can't do it. You won't get it. So you won't
Can't
get
sit
it.
here.
seats taken.
It's taken.
You can sit here if you want to.
Oh my god. Gold.
Tempo is a major factor for emotion, right? Fast equals happy, slow equals sad, if you want to be way overly simplistic about it. But the cool thing is that we have a remarkable memory for it. They asked a bunch of regular-ass people to sing a song they know, and it hit within a 4% of the recording they were recalling. So just a couple of BPMs off, if at all. And these are non-musicians. And even musicians, except most drummers, have a detection rate of about 4 BPMs of variation. So roughly the same amount as the test subjects may have been off by. This accuracy is thanks to the cerebellum, or our little brain, or lizard brain. It's essentially our timekeeper. They think of it the regulator for all movement. So like hitting a pace if you're running for a long distance, and your heart rate, and the rate in which you breathe, all that kind of stuff.
It's like getting into a groove.
Same thing. Yeah,
Getting in the
same
zone.
thing. Right.
Well, one thing that we talked about last episode that kind of goes along with what you were talking about with when you were with the South American guy, and he had he was like, yeah, just go away with the folk stuff. One thing that we talked about is that when you're played music, when you're in the womb, you're way more adept to relating to that music, even though you don't know it after you're 3, 4, 5 years old, because what you're used to is what seems familiar. Yeah. And it doesn't just happen to be. So, I mean, it could be a thing to where, people who are opened up to more notes have more openness to deal with,
Interesting.
So that's pretty cool as well.
No, there was a study where they played fetuses, I guess, music, and then they waited until they were like 6 months after birth or whatever, and utilizing different like eye tracking and if they would turn their head and stuff like that or whatever, and they would respond positively to the music that they were shown, I guess, while they were still in
I guess it's that like nature versus nurture. If you if you're playing metal music to your kid from like 6 weeks, are they going to be into metal, or are you playing like classical music to them? Are they, because as you're saying, like they can help brain development, but is it going to alter their personality?
Right.
Like, does music alter your personality, or do you choose the music that you're after?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think it has to do with the combination of what you've gone through plus what you feel comfortable with.
But then that's getting
musically.
into like the realm of lyric as well.
It is, for sure.
Because we know like a diminished chord is going to make you feel like awkward or upset. Like,
I guess so.
It's
but
like
when I was in high school, I went to sleep to Black Dahlia Murder every night in my headphones.
And look how you turned out, man.
Fantastic. You don't even know me, and Jesus Christ. Who pulled this guy in here?
Oh my God!
No, but seriously,
you seriously, wide open.
I did. You definitely did. But what I meant by that is that like I could listen to metal and it made me feel peaceful.
Yeah, no.
When I was going to sleep, like just full blaring, like diminished.
Yeah, I'm like, I was the same when I was younger. When I was like 14, 15, it was like I loved that.
Yeah,
and it resonated with me a lot. I was a bass player myself. It was my first instrument.
Yeah,
and then like now I'm like I put that on and I'm like, yeah, it is the right time for it.
No, I can't do it anymore. Yeah.
Whereas like certain like Hammock, for example, is a band that is like on my top 10 Spotify listening now, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's because I put it on when I go to sleep because it just really makes me feel centered. And it's fun how your music taste shifts throughout your life, though.
Yeah,
I think that's perception.
Yeah, for sure.
Or perception with self and your surroundings.
Yeah,
that shit can change what you listen to.
Yeah,
a lot.
And a lot of it has to do with the psychology of what Justin likes to say, the fear of missing out thing. Like whether you're reaching out for that, trying to be part of something that you really aren't.
Trying to be part of a wave.
Yeah.
Which actually pulls in
shit.
that like false security of comfortability. Because you really don't like this shit, but you're trying to like this shit.
You're trying to like it because
you're trying to be cool.
That's more like psychological behavior,
Yeah, but I mean, it pulls through with music, though. I mean, because you're
the psychographic of the marketing for that genre or whatever. We see that more and more in a city like Nashville, where it is the music business, and it's like you get the cookie cutter music, but there's a recipe to that, and it seems to be successful. Yeah. And you could analyze it and be like, why is it successful? But I don't know whether they could answer the intrinsic nature of it. Like why is it making you react that way? I mean, maybe it's making you want to drink and get messed up on Broadway. Like that works, right?
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
a thing.
Clearly.
Yeah. And that sells, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, you know, there's some tracks that I'm like, oh, this is so sad boy music, you know, like, but I'll like still enjoy it. And I'm like, there's a time and place. Like Damien Rice, I found that when I was like first Heartbreak or something, 12-year-old, and I'm like, oh damn, this is what I need. It comes to you at the right time. It's like fate or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Early on, the Weeknd trilogy album was like my shit because I was sad boy vibing back then. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going through a lot and I just want to do drugs and like meet random women. And that was my vibe. The Weeknd was like the one. Like he was my idol
Maybe
for like
that's why
2
he was
years.
so successful.
Oh yeah,
You
because
know?
he targeted, you know, people of my age
Going
at that
through
time.
something.
Yeah,
and
going
also-
through some trauma
yeah.
with shit. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe there's a point in which that they haven't touched on, or we may not have touched on
then-
this episode yet, that where like at a certain point in your life you are more lyrically
Connected
than you are rhythmically connected
Yeah.
or
I can see that.
melodically connected,
Yeah.
which would make sense because the brain is a motherfucker.
Oh yeah. for
So
sure.
it
I
would
don't know,
make
some,
sense.
Some
It
41
would-
was pretty deep lyrics. When I was growing up.
the dentist said my
nice.
mom should have had an abortion. Yeah, super fucking deep.
Not after 6 weeks, mate.
Or the amazing artists, Good Charlotte, and their
nice.
incredible line of "Shake it once, you're fine. Shake it twice, that's okay. Shake it 3 times, and you're playing with yourself again."
Uh-oh.
There you go.
Pure poetry. Pure
What's
poetry.
the Dropkick Murphys with their fucking shitty song that got plastered everywhere?
Was it the
The Irish.
the da 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 da
Oh, the Departed track.
Yeah, it's got huge off of that.
Departed track.
It was
Exactly.
I'm a
sailor pig,
Yeah.
and I've lost my leg.
Exactly.
Yeah, good for you, bud.
Word, bro. Like,
No more sailors with peg legs even exist
you
anymore.
would be shouting if you lost your leg.
Yeah, you would
exactly.
be.
Like, it's valid. It's valid. That's
So
the point.
pirates came up with the first punk rock.
but then
So
see,
shanties. I do love a good shanty.
yeah,
Me too.
Yeah, yeah.
But then
yeah.
they tie that into, you know, the whole like culture of Boston, the culture of like, you know, I guess the criminal underworld type of vibe, like the uprising of like
That's what it was.
outlaws. That's what they tied it to.
That's
So
100%
then
what it
everybody
was.
connected with it in that realm. But you have to listen to that song without the hype behind it. It's trash.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like all psychology, bro. The way you present shit.
And that's kind of the point of like the punk rock aspect, though, isn't it? Though,
exactly.
Like,
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, you think about
Completely.
the anarchist lyrics of it,
Yeah.
and the simplicity, but it was about the delivery and the intensity.
And
Yep.
the time, the age of punk.
Yeah.
Like the pure age of punk was like needed.
I'm an antichrist and I'm an anarchist. Like that's what a line.
Exactly.
It makes you feel something.
Yeah, it does.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's like you bring it forward to like a Rage Against the Machine. I'm like,
yeah, bro.
man, you want to revolt after one of their
They
concerts.
caused
And
actual
where's that
riots
band now?
bro.
Yeah, or
I know.
They
that.
caused
That.
actual riots, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
legit riots.
Yeah,
So jealous.
Yeah,
of that.
killing in the name
right.
of a like every single time
Timing,
there's
bro.
like 3 circles in front of you.
Yeah, you want to
can't-
smash.
It's all
them.
about timing, bro.
Rally around the family with a pocket full of shells.
Yeah.
Come on. Now, if you said that in any other generation, other than the way that he presented that,
I'm just gonna
It's
bring up a relevant track today. Was
pretty
it
fantastic.
Better run, faster than my bullet?
Yeah.
You know,
true.
That's relevant to today.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
the
of
same kind of message
Yeah.
in a different way. It's pop,
Yeah.
and you can say some weird shit in pop these days.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, just like the fucking Beatles did that as well.
yeah,
It's like,
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's
They loved a happy song with some sad lyrics. Yeah.
yeah, it's getting better all the time. The background vocals go, it couldn't get much worse.
yeah. Love that
You know,
line.
it's like,
Love that
oh,
line.
Come
Exactly.
on.
Yeah, it's like that, man. I think another big one was
Are you,
just
are you
the
saying
timing.
that music's maybe a distraction from life?
And maybe a subliminal distraction from life.
So I was
like it's
gonna
you
say
can
about
connect
Uptown
with
Funk.
it.
Oh,
what's-
okay. Uptown Funk. What's that about?
Yeah. So when they released that track, you know, there was all the hubbub about Obama and all this shit. Uptown Funk came out. Nobody thought about shit but that song for like 2 months. Like, bro, you know what I mean? Old Town Road, same shit.
Yeah.
all the shit was
God.
going down, then Old Town Road dropped, and that was 2 months of that song.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, like, it's all about timing, and like, it's the.
I
you
feel
know,
like
the.
you've probably got on the Silk Sonic vibe.
Oh yeah, Silk Sonic.
jumped
yeah.
on that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's
When they drop
something.
Leave the
There's
Door Open,
something.
bro, like,
Something about like the generation now we're in, where it's like it's throwback, it's nostalgic, right? And that whole
the 70s
sound,
type of, yeah, exactly.
even down to the production,
Yeah.
is very much a throwback.
That grainy, gritty,
Yeah.
Motown-esque
Yeah.
sound that's brought back up. Yeah.
I mean, it's like fashion; it comes in circles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. And everybody that's making, the hits now are, damn near our age. So they grew up on all the eclectic Motown to 90s R&B to like rock and roll. So they're just creating what
they
we
heard.
grew up in.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and a lot of them are hearing these things like that are of the next generation that are coming up with these new songs are hearing things for the first time.
yeah, exactly.
And it is new to them.
And the
so
point of
they're-
that is accessibility.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
we're in a globalized world, whether it is in a pandemic or not.
Yeah.
We're able to find music from the other side of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Like someone in Africa can release a track, and that's huge. You've probably seen the documentary Search for Sugar Man.
No, I haven't
I
seen
have
that.
not seen that.
Oh,
yet,
okay.
no.
Well, anyone who
we
hasn't
go.
seen Search for Sugar Man should 100% watch this
Cool.
because
Yeah.
it's about an artist from Detroit who did he didn't do very well in America, but his music's really resonated during a time of apartheid. And so it actually blew up on bootleg copies. And then as a 50-year-old man or a 60-year-old, he was found in Detroit as a laborer and brought
Yeah.
to
Okay. Yeah,
South
yeah, yeah.
Africa to perform and arrived with a limousine waiting for him and like 50,000 people.
Oh my god!
And had no idea
Had
that it was
no
even
idea
clue.
that
He's
his
just going through
music
his
had blown
day-to-day,
up.
like, whatever, I make
he'd been
music,
a laborer
I
for
guess.
like 30, 40 years.
Yeah, that's
and then like
crazy,
apparently his
bro.
first tour, he just donated all the money he made to his children. So like, what a
That's
lad.
fucking amazing.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Rodriguez, an
Man,
incredible
shit.
songwriter.
Shit
wouldn't
like
hear that today, though.
Shit like
Yeah.
that makes me just kind of love humans just a little bit.
Right?
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
toff.
Agreed
No,
with.
I
agreed
like
with
Doomsday
the-
Scroll
Yeah.
every day, but then
Yeah.
you like go to Humans in New York and you're like, damn,
Damn, yeah.
man.
Like, damn.
You crushed my heart again. You
Yeah.
did it. You did it.
We actually do have some goodness out there.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah, it's
There's
too easy
positivity
to like
out
to,
there.
to dwell on all of the negative.
Oh,
Yeah.
of course.
Rather than
Because,
appreciate a fucking flower.
We want to suffer in a way. But anyway, that's a different conversation.
Oh, and we also dwell on a negative a lot more just because it sticks out more.
And we
because
can't-
the
we can't
positive is
truly-
going to come across as like, this is
It's
cool.
hard
This
to
is
be
what I want to
excited
do.
every day.
We also
Yeah.
can't
You know?
truly accept negativity. So that's why it's so intriguing. Like, I've seen this experiment where this dude was like, we really can't comprehend negative. If I tell you, hey, don't think about an elephant,
You're going to think about
think
an
about a
elephant.
fucking elephant.
Like
Yeah,
Spot.
now I'm thinking about an elephant.
Exactly. See what I'm saying? So we can't really embrace negativity naturally. That's why it's
Right.
so intriguing to us. That's why
Right.
true crime is such a big fucking thing. That's why
Yeah.
you would love to hear murder stories and all the wild shit. Like,
Absolutely.
that's why.
That's
we
why
can't
when
comprehend
And what's
it.
up with this new like craze of murder mysteries that are just blowing
it's
up?
massive. It's always been a
man.
big thing. I mean, you think about the gallows and the fucking guillotine and all that shit. Thousands of people would gather for
Public
that.
hangings,
Children,
yeah.
you know what I
even
mean? Like
bluegrass
and be
music,
cheering. Yeah,
you know? Half of those songs that murder ballads.
They're about fucking
Yeah.
killers,
Well, you
bro.
just played us a song about the first
Murder
serial,
ballads.
yeah, the first female serial killer. You know,
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's just some, I don't know, some desire or interest around murder or death. Like it's just a natural
because we
part of
can't
life.
comprehend
what it is,
Yeah.
it's
the
that-
unknown, man.
You spend like maybe a quarter of your life being like, I'm alive, and then the next 3 quarters worrying about the next part of dying. Like, when's it coming?
yeah.
Well, there's also
once you
that-
pay your first bills.
There's that
Oh,
whole
another day
like
closer.
you're standing on the top of a building, you kind of want to jump, and or you just look at the weather station and Doppler radar comes over. There's a tornado in your town. When I was a kid, it was 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Oh, wow.
not really that bad, but
Yeah.
literally 8 to 12 times a year. And we would just walk out on the front porch and be like,
Wow.
Take me now.
I was the same in Christchurch with earthquakes. My hometown
Yeah.
had like a 7.9 back in 2011.
That's a big
Lord.
one.
And
that's
since then, there's been like a dispersion of energy. So I remember playing Tetris one night, and it got very interactive very fast. You know, there was a great. It was only like a 5.2 or something, but man, that beard was shaking.
Only a 5.2. Good lord.
Yeah, and so you do get used to it, but I feel like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not until you're standing at the beach beside like the ocean when there's a crazy storm coming in, like obviously recent events down in Louisiana, you know, that's when you truly realize just how vulnerable we are and how much we are the ants on this little spectrum.
Yeah, how much
the
we
world.
don't matter.
You know? We think we do. We're like, our worries are so important. Come on,
exactly.
You didn't get toilet paper from the supermarket, you know?
You can still wash your ass.
You got leaves in the backyard.
That's what I was about to say. I see some trees out there. A couple of those leaves are turning brown, so prime real
Don't
estate.
go barking up the wrong tree.
We're not built to survive, but music always saves us.
Yes.
And I want to see if you guys can also wrap your head around this one, because it took me a second, for real.
Okay.
Loudness, right?
Yeah.
We inherently observe it all the time, but it's entirely in our heads. Loudness doesn't exist in the world. So turning up the volume of like a stereo, you're just increasing the amplitude of the vibration of molecules.
What?
And it's perceived differently than it's increased electronically. Also, different sound associations are perceived as louder or softer than the amount of molecules they displace. Like a jackhammer from 3 feet away has less amplitude than some rock concerts, but one is jarring and the other one you pay to experience, right? Or compression in recordings makes something appear to be louder, but in essence,
Instead of
it's
Bringing the surroundings
bringing-
up.
yeah, exactly.
Or bringing the highs down.
Yeah.
Right. It's fucking crazy. Either way, it's measured in decibels, named after Alexander Graham Bell. And it's a directionless unit, like a percentile. It's the ratio of 2 sound levels. So doubling the intensity of a sound is a 3 dB increase. Our ear compresses sounds that are very loud in order to protect the delicate middle and inner ear. So as something gets louder, our perception increases proportionately to them. But when it's really loud, a proportionate increase would damage our ears, so the compression is greater, making larger increases in sound levels smaller in our ears.
That's why every 14-year-old band practice, they feel like they sound real good.
Exactly.
Because it's just super. This one goes up to 11. Like,
It's just a wall of sound.
Yeah. And your ears can only perceive so much of the image. Yeah.
Okay, the inner hair cells have a range of about 50 decibels. Yet we can hear over 120 dB range. It gets to a 4-to-1 difference in reality versus our perception. Acousticians developed a less confusing reference point of 20 micropascals of sound pressure, which is the threshold of healthy hearing.
You said what?
Acousticians.
Acousticians.
Yeah.
I've never seen that word in my life.
Acousticians.
I've never seen that word in my life. I was like,
Sound doctors.
You're accusing me
Acousticians?
acoustically?
acousticians.
Well, we'll call those sound scientists.
Okay.
Or scientist of a coffee shop band. Acousticians.
All right, so 0 is a mosquito flying in a quiet room 10 feet away from your ears. 20 dB is a recording studio or a very quiet executive office with nothing else going on. 35 dB is a typical quiet office with the door closed and the computers off. 50 dB is a typical conversation in a room. 75 dB is a typical comfortable music listening level in your headphones.
That never happens.
100 to 105 dB is classical music or opera concert during a loud passage, or some portable music players go up to 105. 110 is a jackhammer 3 feet away. 120 is a jet engine heard on the runway from 300 feet away, or a typical rock concert. 126 to 130 is the threshold of pain and permanent damage. A rock concert by The Who, for example.
Why do you have to use the Who, bro?
They were like traditionally the loudest fucking rock show ever.
Actually had an explosive in his drum, which made Pete Townsend, the guitarist, like lose half of his hearing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably a good good reference.
Probably a reason. I'm glad I asked that question.
Yeah, if you put a microphone to a fucking explosion, it's gonna be pretty loud.
Pretty loud. Never forget the
where
Pete
some of the
Townsend.
best bins of the notes came from, so that's okay.
So noting in that so 126 dB or decibels is 4 times as loud as 120. So 6 points up is 4 times louder. And it gets
this is where it gets weird, huh?
It gets smaller as it gets louder, but it's actually in reality 4 times as loud. But we can only register it as like 6 points up, if that makes sense.
It's like the calculation of dog and cat years once they start getting older and they start dipping.
180 dB is a space shuttle launch, and then 250, 275 is the center of a tornado or a volcanic eruption.
Holy shit.
I wonder how much this affects you, like kind of like an earthquake, where it's like the epicenter, you know? So it's like depth versus distance kind of thing, where like
it's coming
if the
from,
frequency is a lower frequency and you're further away, what's the damage versus if it's a higher frequency and you're closer or something, you know? Because there's an element of that, surely.
Right. There has to be an element to that, which would further complicate
where
all
like
this.
the fart ray must be a thing.
The brown note.
That would be the most ridiculous gun to have,
I'll
right?
never forget that episode of Mythbusters where they tried to make a brown note.
Oh, no.
Nice.
They never pulled it off.
It's a real thing.
It kind of
It's a real thing.
It kind of reminds me of one of the things I'm going to go over in season 4, which is the Stromboli octopus.
Yeah, that boy wild.
You know?
Yeah. You know.
He can play all the instruments at the highest decibel. No, but seriously, homeboy can like pick up on.
What about the Clone Wars? That'd be pretty convenient, right?
Yeah.
Clone yourself to be an army of musicians.
Yeah.
That'd be
Do
awesome.
some Foo
Army
Fighter
of
tracks.
octopi?
I don't know.
But if you were an octopus, though, you could be a whole band. It's true.
That's true.
But like the
One-man
problem
band.
would be you'd have to open tune every instrument because I don't think you'd have fingers.
Very true. Very true.
You could squirt at the note though. Like that's an option.
Yeah.
So that's definitely
But
spent a
very
lot of
messy
time
for
on this.
cleanup.
Well, that's what I was getting to. You got to squirt in the note.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's it.
All right, we're gonna slide up
You just-
out of there.
you just gotta
squirt in the note.
squirt in that note.
We're gonna
Squirt
Would
the
you
note.
be a tenor naturally? Just tenor tentacles?
Ooh, all right.
So a lot of people really like loud music, right? Concertgoers talk about a special state of consciousness, a sense of thrills and excitement when the music is really loud, usually over 115 dB. Yet we don't really know why. Part of the reason may be related to the fact that loud music saturates the auditory system, causing neurons to fire at their maximum rate. When many, many neurons are firing maximally, this could cause an emergent property, a brain state qualitatively different from what they're firing at normal rates. So basically like a high that you'd be getting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, that's people hugging the fucking bass caps and shit. Yeah.
But still, some people don't like loud music while others do. You know what I mean? There are a lot of people that choose not to go to rock concerts because it's just too much for them.
I can't handle.
And why is that?
I can't handle like riding in a car with extremely loud music anymore. Probably because I was what he said earlier as a 14-year-old garage band kid playing as loud as I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, another interesting thing that I would like to figure out at some point is, speaking of loud noises, jumping out of planes. I wonder what the decibels of that are.
Depends what altitude you're at.
Because, well, the normal altitude is 14.2.
No, but like if you're falling, if you're already jumping out of the plane, like it's going to change depending on.
Well, that's what I mean, though. Like how,
the
like,
initial,
but,
like-
I mean, but like terminal velocity is 3.5 meters per second per
if it's
second,
anything
so it should
like-
get louder until
As
you
you
pull
come
the
in
chute.
closer.
But if it's anything like listening to music, there's going to be a max. There's going to be
Exactly.
a point where like
Right,
it doesn't
right.
get any louder.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. You're maxed out.
Yeah.
Probably from the
And-
jump, you're maxed out.
But I would like to at least know
Adrenaline, though, you never know. Like
what
you're in the zone.
what that decibel, like if that has anything to do with what you're talking about, that kind of high almost, because definitely jumping out of a plane gives you a high. Other than the fact that your brain just goes, you're gonna die.
So,
But yeah.
Well, it could be a release of dopamine as well.
Well, I mean, there's definitely dopamine. That's released.
And that's the fun, crazy thing is like, you know, if you're going back to pace or tempo, that, you know, like say you are falling out of a plane, well, time changes. You know, it's like say you've had a
yeah.
coffee
yeah, it
and
does.
you then go to record something. You're not going to be necessarily on pace with the click track. You might race it a little bit just because of that caffeine boost.
Yeah.
And so, like, I feel like your energy levels really makes a huge difference on not just pacing, but also pitch, which is a made up construct, really, because as you were saying, like pitch, there's like the pentatonic scale that we know it in the Western world, where it's like there's a certain pitch point that a tuner is designed to say this is in tune. But that's not actually true. Like there's relative pitch is just as important, really.
Right.
But man, imagine being perfect pitch, hey? And you're
I
just
know.
like
I hate those people.
everything sucks. Like you're just like, man, everything's out of tune.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no.
I'm perfect. Nobody's
It's
like
just
me.
one. It's only been one.
It sounds like something you'd
individual
want.
though. Yeah.
But I feel like you'd hate it.
That's actually really fair. I remember there was a kid in school when I was in like music in college, and there was this kid in theory that he was the worst. Like,
because he was
It
so
was
good.
actually the best.
but we were going over we're going over intervals, and he's like, "What is this interval?" And I'm like, "I think I know what it is." And he'd just be like, "It's that," and you're playing these two notes on the piano, and I'm like, "Fuck you, dude," you know.
I love
crazy.
And
playing
he's like,
with
and the second one's a little flat, and I'm like, "God damn it, shut up," you know.
I play with a classical cellist, and I feel like he's the diva of the group, you know. But it's important for me to not have to worry about theory. You know, like it's like there's different perspectives on
Bro,
anything.
that's why we love John McNair.
That's what I was about to say. We have a
Because he's
John
that
McNair
theory
for
guy.
that.
And it's like this is dope. It's like, wait, it's not as dope as you think because of this. Okay,
Yeah.
word, cool. Well,
He's our-
Thanks for
fix it.
ruining the fun.
It's
our
mostly
piano
like,
player.
okay, well,
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
fix it.
But
Oh, that
you
is
need,
doper.
you need
Thank
someone who can explain why you're doing
Yeah,
what you're doing and why it
exactly.
works. But also, I feel like it puts you in a box. So theory is just designed to help be an aid. But if you do too much of it, then you understand too much, and then every construct or theory is
It's
clashing.
harder to break those rules. Yeah.
Break the wall down, if you
Yeah.
will. It's like if you're acting, you know, there's the fourth wall, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Break it down every now and then.
Yeah.
Bring the crowd in.
Yeah. Ferris Bueller, baby.
Baby.
Baby. Oh my goodness.
So all these elements of music have been singled out in order for them to be tested and studied in a laboratory, let's say. The issue here is that it's the combination of all them together that makes music music. So the author of the book that I'm mainly referencing, he looked to a Gestalt approach. And if y'all remember that from a few weeks back, the therapy episode, the Gestaltist, it means whole or holistic.
Holistic.
Yeah, in the sense of approaching all of it simultaneously, which is very complicated. But
It is.
the Gestaltists wondered how is it that a melody composed of a set of specific pitches could retain its identity, its recognizability, even when all of the pitches are changed. Right? Here's a case for which they could not generate a satisfying theoretical explanation. The ultimate triumph of form over detail, of the whole over the parts. Play a melody using any set of pitches, and so long as the relation between those pitches is held constant, it's the same melody. Play it on different instruments, people still recognize it. Play it at half speed or double speed, or impose all these transformations at the same time, and people still have no trouble recognizing it as the original song. The influential Gestalt school was formed to address this particular question. Although they never answered it, they did go on to contribute enormously to our understanding of how objects in the visual world are organized through a set of rules that are taught in every introductory psychology class, the Gestalt principles of grouping, meaning that we automatically and almost instantaneously ask and answer for ourselves what goes with what. So like the overtones I mentioned earlier, we look at a lawn, not individual blades of grass, right? So like you listen to a trumpet or a piano or whatever, you're not listening to every single little overtone that's happening. You just hear a fucking trumpet.
You hear the whole.
Yeah.
The direct.
Yeah. This is an evolutionary trait of our ears. Some things sound similar, some are safe, and some aren't. An important way to distinguish them is this type of grouping, and included in that is timing. Say one instrument begins a few thousandths of a second before another instrument. The other is spatial location. We don't do so good in the up versus down. We're pretty good at forward versus back, but we're really good at left versus right. It's how we can focus on one conversation in a crowded room, or notice a predator creeping up on us while we're walking in a forest, right? Talking about evolution.
I was like, what?
Either way, It's insane if you think about listening to a full symphony orchestra. Imagine all the different instruments playing at once, and you can pick them out of the group.
Have you heard about this new system called Atmos? Atmos is like a surround sound. It's like the Dolby of the audio world.
Okay.
So it's like the latest version where you have so much clarity in surround sound. It's about $250,000 like speaker system if you want to get it going. But the console is great because you're able to like break up an orchestra into every individual part.
Oh wow!
And truly be immersed. It's like the 3D of audio.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, like think like 12 subs kind of. You know?
Yeah. It would have to be.
But to mix with it, they honestly people at the moment don't know how to mix with it
Because it's so
so wide.
Like,
it's incredible how vast it is. Yeah,
that's crazy, bro.
At Blackbird Studios in town here, they've equipped it with that.
Oh, shouts
cool.
out to
Yeah,
Blackbird,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, shout
Love
out.
that too.
Yeah, great
Dope
studio.
shit.
Great studio. But apparently the 3D bar that we have on most TVs is equipped with the Atmos system. So
Oh wow!
yeah, take a look.
Huh.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Right on. Hell yeah, that's dope as fuck.
Knowledge
That
is
is
power. G.I.
Yeah,
Joe.
that just took my brain somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah, me too.
amazing.
What? Oh, yeah, okay. So some of these elements of sound happen automatically, like we've been talking about, but conscious attention to others affects our experience of music. It's this combination that leads to an emotional response. The dominant view today is that the sum total of your thoughts, beliefs, and experiences is represented in patterns of firings, electrochemical activity, in the brain. If the brain ceases to function, the mind is gone, but the brain can still exist, thoughtless in a jar in someone's laboratory.
Like Futurama.
Exactly.
There you go. Look at
Just
that.
like Futurama.
Boom.
So the frontal lobe is associated with planning and with self-control and with making sense out of the dense and jumbled signals that our senses receive, the so-called perceptual organization that the Gestalt psychologists studied. The temporal lobe is associated with hearing and memory. The parietal lobe is associated with motor movements and spatial skill, and the occipital lobe with vision. The cerebellum is involved in emotions and the planning of movements and is the evolutionarily oldest part of our brain. Even many animals, such as reptiles, that lack the higher brain region of the cortex still have a cerebellum. Musical activity involves nearly every region of the brain that we know about and nearly every neural subsystem.
It's interesting you're talking about the perennial part there. I wonder if that has an influence over like Alzheimer's. You know, you have a lot of patients there who, you know, once upon a time played piano, don't remember what happened yesterday or the week before, but they can play that piano part like it was yesterday.
We actually touched on that last week because Kevin Techuan does OT, occupational therapy, and he's done that with Alzheimer's patients and kids with like ADD. Like the music actually like helps their brain remember certain things or certain aspects of themselves that they've forgotten or get like too far ahead of.
Right.
I mean, musicologists have been doing a lot of work with brain damage, which has been amazing in recent years.
It's wild, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's so essential.
Yeah, well, actually, what he was
so fucking
saying,
essential.
because I've listened to that last episode 3 times. I usually don't listen to our episodes that many times.
Yeah,
to
I've
be
given
honest.
once or twice runs.
Yeah. But I've listened to it 3 times because it was so. It was. This is a
And then
shit
leave it on
podcast. That's
repeat.
why.
Put it on mute.
Just put it on repeat so we can get some streams.
No, but seriously, what he was saying is that like if you have somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia or anything like that, find music, find out their age and everything, and find music that when they were about 14 to 16 years old, and play it for them. And you'll get these key responses out of certain songs. And those certain songs, there were a couple people, like one guy that he was talking about
nonverbal.
had not talked for 5 years. And he talked to the guy's daughter and found out his age and everything, and like got her to start playing songs that when he was about 16 years old. And he started having full conversations with her again.
Remembering her whole life.
Just
and, like, his whole
just
it's
because.
wild.
And then when it went away again.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So,
man.
yeah, it's nuts.
The brain is malleable.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah, and music is a wonderful beast.
It
you
whispers the secrets of life,
You can witness the person like going through this. Like you can see it in their eyes as
That's
well.
what-
Like
that's
going
exactly what
through
he
that
said, man.
He
transition.
said the light just came back to his
It's
eyes.
like you
It's
can
like
see
a
it in their
robot,
eyes.
and it was like, oh shit, humanity. I'm back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild, bro. It's crazy to think about.
Powerful.
Crazy.
Yeah, super powerful.
Did you hear recently? There's a new piece of technology that they're using to be able to control all your smartphones with a chip that goes into the back of your brain, right? And so I wonder if that can be like related to music somehow. Like, just an interesting thought. Like Elon Musk, one of his random inventions that they're working on.
Yeah, we randomly talked about the chip that could cancel out the bad thought gene or whatever.
Yeah, for like psychopaths.
Yeah, psychopaths and
Yeah.
people that are going through that one little part in the brain that gets fucked up that every serial killer has fucked up. A chip that fixes that is like a thing in the works or something.
Oh yeah. That's the episode that I did on that, which was
It's like a modern day
they're looking
lobotomy.
at putting in a little computer chip on the back of your brain that literally the reason why it hasn't been pushed forward as fast as they wanted it to is because that's kind of playing God,
Yeah.
quote unquote.
Morals.
Which it essentially just you're about to do a bad thing and then nope.
It's
you
like an
correct
electric
yourself kind of a
shock
deal.
collar for the
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah,
Essentially,
totally.
that's what it is. Yeah.
It's crazy. And with them doing that, I'm sure that's going to be tied in if that ever happens, which I'm sure.
Well,
at
if they
this
get their
point-
brains around the fact that music controls you way more than electroshock therapy does,
Yeah.
then
I always wonder,
Big
like,
facts.
much like with eyesight, right? We're all seeing slightly different versions, whether it be dimmer or brighter, of the world around us.
Yeah.
I wonder if people who have become more in tune with music hear it in more depth, or if a friend of mine once said to me, like, what's weird is that you hear a song and you hear the instruments, and I hear a song and I hear the whole picture. I hear just a song.
Yeah.
And I don't know what makes it up. And so it is just kind of interesting. It's like on that level, you're more thinking like emotionally to the music,
yeah.
whereas like we're thinking about what perhaps makes it up as musicians.
It's like one of the things that happened with me is when I played metal and stuff when I was a kid and played math metal and that just very obscure time signatures and stuff like that. When I would play it for people who were musicians, they'd be like, "Oh, dude, this is dope."
This shit is
But if I
wild.
played it for someone who wasn't a musician, their ear wasn't adept to that.
Yeah.
So they were like, "Yeah," and they would start talking in the middle of me playing it, and I would be like,
Well, it's like I have a theory that if
Why are you
you're not
talking
a,
"I'm
right
trying to show you this music we just wrote."
if you're not a musician, 9 times out of 10, if I showed you, say, a Tom York track versus, say, an Oasis song or something, like a Wonderwall versus a Paranoid Android, if you're not a musician, which one are you going to go for?
It's like King Crimson and Hanson, you know?
Straight up, bro. Straight up. Yeah, it's totally different.
Who do you really want to listen to? Every musician's going to go, well, King Crimson.
Yeah.
And
I guess that's the fun part of where we're at today, where it's not dictated by like radio play or, we can find that niche genre that really suits our personality.
Yeah, it's totally
type.
up to you now
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
listener. Yeah.
And that's like that whole push versus pull. Like back in the day, everything was pushed. The media's pushed to you. Now we can pull the information we want.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
Yeah.
We can put this off to the side and actually get what we're interested in.
which, means that music may be evolutionizing us again.
Yeah.
I mean,
totally.
honestly,
I mean,
because
maybe our
with
teeth will get smaller.
everything bad that has come from social media, if you can just pull what you want and what matters to you instead of like this is what you need to listen to, then maybe that is.
I think that
contributing
we're
to
lucky
your-
that we hit social media at a fairly well-developed stage of our lives, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'd hate to think about raising children in a world today where you're like, oh, fuck. Like, these people are going to have to deal with getting cyberbully shit. Like, there's random photo of them getting drunk for the first time ends up haunting them for the rest of their life. The
Yeah.
bad
Right.
decisions we made.
Oh, bro.
Yeah.
Oof.
Super glad
There's
lot of
a
that's
fun
not out
theory,
there.
which is that, like, they were more intelligent even back in the days of like Aristotle compared to where they are now because of smartphones. But
Yeah, of course. It is what it is.
I do love the fact though that we have just like so much depth for music now. Like a lot of people have said that there's not going to be anything better than the greats, the classical greats from back in the day. Or
It's all been done. Yeah.
and that, that's
it.
why you can't fully own a chord progression. you
Right.
know?
Yeah, exactly.
But we only know so much. So though.
Yeah.
Like I feel like as a musician, it's like we know if we're going to play a minor chord, we're going to play this chord progression. It resonates with people or the scale.
Of course.
But you don't know why.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where the science comes into it more, because it is bringing new pathways to the brain.
That brain.
Yeah.
You just need that GACD, and you're good.
There you go. There you go. Bang, bang. Secrets to it.
But yeah, I mean, that's absolutely right, though. Like, it's like the setting up and then manipulating of expectations, and that's really is the heart of music, right? And it's accomplished in countless ways. The brain constructs its own
like a storytelling
version of reality, based only in part of like what is there, and then in part on how it interprets the tones that we hear as a function of the role they play in a learned musical system. We have learned that certain sequences of tones go together and expect them to continue to do so. We expect certain pitches, rhythms, timbres, and so on to co-occur based on this like statistical analysis our brain has performed of how often they've gone together in the past. We have to reject the intuitively appealing idea that the brain is storing an accurate and strictly isomorphic representation of the world. To some degree, it is storing perceptual distortions, illusions, and extracting relationships among elements. It's computing a reality for us, one that is rich in complexity and beauty. An important way that our brain deals with standard situations is that it extracts those elements that are common to multiple situations and creates a framework within which to place them. This framework is called a schema. The schema leads to clear expectations, as well as a sense of which those expectations are flexible and which are not. These begin forming in the womb and are elaborated, amended, and otherwise informed every time we listen to music. Our musical schema for Western music includes implicit knowledge of the scales that are normally used, like you talking about the pentatonic scale, you know? And this is why Indian or Pakistani music, for example, sounds strange to us the first time we hear it over here in the West. It doesn't sound strange to Indians and Pakistanis, of course, and it doesn't sound strange to infants, or at least not any stranger than any other music. This may be an obvious point, but it sounds strange by virtue of its being inconsistent with what we learned to call music. By the age of 5, infants have learned to recognize chord progressions in the music of their own culture. They're forming their own schemas. And schemas are an extension of memory. As listeners, we recognize when we are hearing something we've heard before, and we can distinguish whether we heard it earlier in the same piece or in a different piece. Music listening requires, according to the theorist Eugene Narmore, that we are able to hold in memory a knowledge of those notes that have just gone by alongside a knowledge of all other musics we are familiar with, that approximate style with what we're listening to in that moment. This latter memory may not have the same level of resolution or the same amount of vividness as notes we've just heard, but it's necessary in order to establish a context for the notes that we're hearing now.
Like a leading note.
Yeah. And it is kind of crazy to think about, like, so, you know, like what makes folk music, or what makes metal music.
There was a fun panel that I heard at a conference once, which was asking that question, like, what is folk music? And this Iranian kind of club track came on, and one of these folk DJs was like, no, that's not folk music. And the guy stands up and goes, well, it's the folklore of my country, and it's the indigenous instrumentation for where I'm from.
Yeah.
And all we did was we put a little beat behind it, you know? But that is, by definition, folk.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it is interesting because you can get all technical on the tradition or the heritage.
Yeah.
But
you easily could. But, I mean, you know, if you're asking somebody from Southeast America what folk music is, they're going to have a completely different answer.
Totally different.
Right?
Yeah.
And you immediately recognize it because, like, based off of what you're familiar with, what you've already heard before, you know. But it's this massive combination of different elements, you know, instrumentation, tempo, melody structures.
It's like my only issue with the movie Moana, to be honest.
Oh yeah,
I like actually loved all the music. I mean, it was written by the dude who did Hamilton, I think, and it was amazing. And there's some great tracks in it, but I'm like, it doesn't really sound like Pacific Island music like all the time, you know. And coming from out there, I was just like, they have some of the best voices you've ever heard.
Yeah.
And somehow they Disney personified that music. So it was still good. It was great. You know,
yeah.
don't get me wrong, but that being able to like really showcase like a culture to the world is a huge power.
Yeah.
Gigantic.
Yeah. And that's where like I remember the first time going to Colombia and hearing like a drum circle and was like, what is this? This is something special.
Yeah,
and there's
yeah,
like
straight
12-year-olds doing dancing you've never seen out of this world, you know, like and it's just this is all part of their culture, how they're raised, you know.
Yeah.
Which is just absolutely nuts. And I mean, it really does just go to show like your musical taste is, I would think after looking into all this, and it's almost entirely based on your upbringing, you know, what you're used to, what you've been surrounded by.
And that's where I think travel is still the number one most important thing we can do as individuals, you know, like
and understanding different cultures.
The biggest issue we have with having issues with another culture is a lack of understanding.
I would say
So like
too,
if
you
you
know?
visit a culture and you take time to step out of your own beliefs or understanding of what is normal, all of a sudden you're like, man, this is incredible, you know?
I mean, that's politically and musically and everything across the board.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
If you don't understand,
Take a
you
minute.
can't compute,
Yeah.
you know?
Which
Like,
is, I mean, goes to show like why
We want to stereotype. We want to put people in boxes.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, say
us
you live
understand.
in a rural area, you're going to mostly be surrounded by like-minded people. If you live in an urban area, a lot of people from different cultures have moved.
Like have
There
you heard
for
of the-
different
Have you heard of the
opportunities.
Bristol sessions?
Yeah, that
It's like
sounds
the
familiar to me.
birthplace of country.
Okay.
Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia.
Yeah. Okay.
They had
Yeah.
like one of the first ever condenser microphones brought out to this
Uh-huh.
town. And in 2 weeks, they recorded like 70 artists. And in those 2
Awesome.
weeks, they basically created
Country music.
bluegrass,
Oh, okay.
country music.
Yeah.
Like this. It was like some of like early preachers. It was like, whoever knows how to sing a song, come on down.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to pair you up with other musicians who are also there.
Come test
Like,
out this new invention, the
Yeah.
condenser microphone.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's fucking wild.
Pretty amazing
That's
to
so
watch. And you're like, that's the beginning of that style, perhaps, you know, like looking at some of those early recordings. And then you're like, you look at early country music, Stax Museum, and you're like, oh, this is starting to, wait, all of a sudden it's soul music? Like soul music came from country? How does this make sense, you know?
Right.
Exactly.
Evolution of music is so fascinating.
It's wild, bro.
Absolutely is.
Even it kind of goes hand in hand with the evolution of language to an extent as
Oh,
well.
for sure. Oh, without a doubt.
big time,
Yeah. We could do a whole season on the fucking evolution of music.
Oh,
bro.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's probably going to happen at some point.
A brief history.
Yeah, because like these past 2 weeks have been like the most conversational and informative combinations of our style of podcasting.
Sure.
Honestly, because we all are fucking into it.
Oh, yeah. We're all
Right?
musical.
And we've had this great guest, Kevin, last week, is also that deep into it. You know what I mean? But anyway, hot facts.
Well, I was just going to end up on this fun little dealy. Let's see. The story of your brain on music is the story of an exquisite orchestration of brain regions involving both the oldest and newest parts of the human brain, and regions as far apart as the cerebellum in the back of the head and the frontal lobes just behind your ears. It involves a precision of choreography of neurochemical release and uptake between logical prediction systems and emotional reward systems. When we love a piece of music, it reminds us of other music that we've heard, and it activates memory traces of emotional times in our lives. Your brain on music is all about connections.
Yep.
I have to
Big fact.
touch
Yeah.
on one thing.
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Wagner. I don't know if you guys have ever listened to Wagner. Or
I have.
Sufjan Stevens, I would say, is the modern comparison. In the sense of like an artist who is so creative and was so able to make you make you hurt. You listen to the music and the dissonance is so harsh at points that the whole point of it, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You sit there going, why?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden this melody comes out of it. And it's kind of like, you know, on a beautiful day where like if you have that storm pass through, it makes you appreciate the light, the sun even
Of course.
more.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what I think a Wagner or Sufjan Stevens does. And it's just to make you feel something.
Yeah.
Kind of like in movies, you watch an indie film, it's not going to be a blockbuster, but it makes you feel and think.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's kind of the point of that art.
yeah.
Yeah.
Gives you a deeper aspect of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For
Well,
sure.
I mean, yeah. Fucking psychology of music. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing. And what's the reference for that book again?
This is Your Brain on Music by Daniel Levitan.
Yeah, pick that up.
It's super good. Seriously, there's so many things that I wanted to hit on that I just didn't have time, even doing 2 episodes, because sometimes it was the fact that, we all have so much to say because we feel very, deeply about it. Other times it's just 2 hours isn't enough.
Yeah, right.
I want to say thank you guys so much for having me on board. It's been a lot of fun to chat with y'all.
It's been great.
Of course.
It's been super great.
Great episode. Episode 25.
Or 24.2.
Yeah, whatever you want to look at it. Music on the Brain, Psychology of Music. We can go on for days. We're probably going to revisit this, I'm sure, in the future. Because there's so much more. There's so much more to
4
unfold.
hours, it's not enough.
It would also be great to have you on again, too. So.
Of course.
Oh, absolutely, man. I'm just
awesome.
down the road. Let's do it.
Exactly.
Clearly, you wanted to talk about the Stromboli octopus, so
I did want to talk about the fucking Stromboli octopus.
You gotta say
you
you can't
better be there.
You can't give it all away. Can't give it all away.
I almost gave up some of what I shouldn't have.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm glad you jumped in.
Yeah, you can't give it all away.
Now you're part of the Stromboli octopus episode.
I definitely have a couple of things I'd like to add to that episode, but we'll save it till that time.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
perfect.
And there you go.
Do you know about the Stromboli octopus?
I know about many Strombolis.
Holy shit.
Octopi, octopus,
Yeah.
Good times. Good times. Well, I'm Justin Hammonds, and I'm saying love, live life because it's worth living, y'all.
Shit, I'm Drew Shelnut. Fuck off and listen to the music and stuff that makes you feel good.
Grant Bramlett here. There's 3 different ways to pronounce the plural of octopus. You got octopi, octopuses, and octopussies.
Octopi?
Damn it, 4!
Oh my God! You got you want to sign off there?
I'm Nick Stein, and thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, South for Winter. Check them out.
Cheers,
if
brother.
not, you sleeping. Don't be sleeping. Stay woke.
Where's you want to throw out some socials for them?
You got Instagram?
Stay woke, get on that folk. At South for Winter Music. For all those Americans out there. That's
boom.
South for Winter Music.
Wow, that was really good.
That was nice. That was really good. He's had a lot of time to work on his American.
That's true.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. There you go.
Now we in there.
There you go.
Now we in there.
Yeah, he's under the wing now. We got him. Well, thank y'all for listening, man. Don't forget to support us at anchor.fm/Friends, Facts, and Fiction. This is a podcast called Friends, Facts, and Fiction, and we out.
Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for the next installment. Find us on Facebook and Instagram to stay up to date on all things Friends, Facts, and Fiction. Our Instagram handle is friends_facts_fiction. As always, please reach out to us. You can send any of your questions, praise, and fact-checking to friends_facts_fiction@gmail.com. It's important to us to only propagate the truth, and we'll correct any errors we may have made. Your hosts and researchers are Justin Hammonds, Grant Bramlett, and Drew Shelnut. Our episodes are produced by Grant Bramlett. Additional producership provided by Grace Higgs. Our recording engineer is Grant Bramlett. Our editor, mix, and mastering audio engineer is Jeremy Mulder. Lighting design is provided by Justin Hammonds. Our office assistants are Gully and Bull. Our research assistants are Under and Paid. Our current interns are Lost and Questionable. Our personal drivers are Titleist and Tired. And our resident pooches are Pack and Jolene, the Devil Child. This has been a production of Friends, Facts, and Fiction.
They're like, oh, it's kind of
like
folk opera.
OG folk. It's just Renaissance music.
You listen to it and you're like, yeah, this is
Pretty much.
amazing.
It's
I want
funny
a Morris
vibes.
dance to it or something.
Yeah, right.